Welcome to our webinar and thank you for joining us today. I'm delighted to welcome you to the launch of our second report in our What Workers Want series. By way of a brief introduction, I'm Sarah Stevenson. I've been with Hays for over 20 years and I'm currently an Operations Director for Hays based in Reading. My role involves a lot of interaction with employers across the Thames Valley, so I know from working with them that attracting and retaining the best people is absolutely crucial if they're to achieve their business objectives now and in the future. So this is why I'm so passionate about this report. I'm joined today by Richard Waite. He's the resourcing lead at Grant Thornton. And Richard, once we've gone through our own findings, will be revealing some of the recruitment strategies Grant Thornton have put into place and the positive effects these have had on their own ability to attract the best people. Before we start with the main presentation, I'd just like to remind you that you can share your feedback and engage with What Workers Want conversation on social media. Simply follow us on Twitter at Hays News or Hays Connect, or with us on Facebook or LinkedIn using the hashtag @WhatWorkersWant. This year, our What Workers Want report provides insight into what makes a successful applicant journey. The findings will help employers understand their strengths and weaknesses throughout the application journey and identify where they are at risk of losing talent. To put together the report, we carried out an extensive survey in February which received over 14,600 responses from both candidates and employers across the UK. The survey was completed by professionals from a variety of organisation types and size across the public and private sectors. Our report specifically focuses on what about the applicant experience attracts or detracts someone for applying to or accepting a role across 4 key stages: search, apply, decide, join. The search stage includes the role of brand awareness and employer value proposition, applicant job search preferences, the information included in job adverts, and the ease of finding information about the employer. The apply stage includes applicants' experiences when applying for jobs, the application method and requirements, the time this takes, and the feedback and communication received after applying. The decide stage includes the structure and experience of interviews and screening, interaction with the hiring organisation, interview feedback, compliance processes, and the offer process and negotiation. The join stage includes induction and onboarding processes prior to and after joining an organisation and the detail and length of these processes. We have identified the key factors that determine success at each of these stages of the applicant journey, looking at what applicants believe to be the roadblocks throughout. By using the insights from this report, employers can compare their own application journey against the expectations and experiences of applicants. They can identify weak points and focus their attraction strategies and future investment where it matters most. This will be helpful in giving employers a competitive advantage in what is a very competitive market for candidates at all levels. In today's intensely competitive market, the challenge isn't just finding prospective candidates, it's keeping them engaged throughout the entire application process point of hire. Based on our research, 63% of applicants at one time or another across any of the 4 stages have been deterred from completing their application, with the main contributing factor being a generally poor applicant experience. Therefore, the key message to take away this year is that first impressions matter more today than ever before. Applicants are judging all aspects of the employer and the organisation. In addition to having a high level of expectation on how long a process should take and how easy it should be to apply, applicants have certain expectations along each stage of the journey, so employers need to ensure they are pitching these correctly to avoid losing the candidates they would like to hire. But employers are not necessarily aware of the problems along their own applicant journey. As we can see, there is an overall 10% gap in satisfaction rating between employers and applicants. 65% of employers think they are offering a good or excellent experience. But by contrast, only 55% of professionals who applied to a job in the past 2 years rated the applicant experience provided by employers as good or excellent. The remainder of respondents gave a very poor to neutral rating. So there is a clear mismatch here, and employers are largely unaware of just how vital first impressions made during the applicant journey are to a successful hire. Looking at this more closely, the applicant's rating of quality of experience declines from search through to the final stage, join. Employers, however, do not see much of a difference in the quality of experience they provide across any of the stages of their applicant journey, proven by the quality rating of employers declining by just 5% from search to join. Overall, decide and join are the worst performing stages of the applicant journey, with a 16% and 14% employer versus applicant sentiment mismatch. The biggest applicant versus employer satisfaction gap we see across the whole applicant journey is at the decide stage, which includes the structure and experience of interviews. Employers and applicants are at odds in their assessment of the decide stage. Just 49% of applicants rate their experiences at this stage as good or better, versus 65% of employers, a 16% discrepancy. Overall, an alarming number of applicants, 84%, say they've had a negative experience during this decide stage. Unprepared interviews and a lack of interview structure are some of the main reasons why applicants are being deterred at interview stage. Poor communication regarding the process is also a main contributor to applicant dissatisfaction. Poor experiences do not end once an applicant starts a new job, and these are impacting on the retention of new starters. Just under half of professionals say that they've left at least one job in the first year because it did not match the expectations formed during the application process. The key areas where these new starter expectations were not met were the job advert itself and training. Expectations from management not aligning and cultural fit were also key reasons professionals decided to leave a role within the first year. So, what do workers want for an application journey? Firstly, they want employers to be transparent and authentic. They want an efficient process and personalised communication and functionality across every stage, and they want to feel welcomed. Let's take a look closer at each of these points. Today's applicant expects to be able to find out almost everything about an employer before they join. 1 out of 2 professionals won't consider applying for a job if they can't find all of the information they require. For example, applicants want to see how an employer will invest in their personal development, their career plan, and whether they have a public commitment to equality, diversity and inclusion. If employers do not make this information easily accessible, then candidates may be deterred right from the outset of the search stage of the applicant journey. When researching prospective employers, candidates are looking for authenticity, so to learn about what it's actually like to work for an organisation, applicants turn to both current and ex-workers for first-hand insights. Employers looking to recruit are therefore advised to regularly conduct employer brand health checks. 61% of candidates say they have been discouraged from applying to a job after reading negative reviews online about an organisation. Interestingly, however, many employers don't consider review sites and staff testimonials to be an important part of their candidate attraction strategy. In fact, nearly half of employers are in the dark about these reviews and say they are unsure or unaware of the sentiment of employee feedback online. Applicants are deterred by lengthy and inefficient processes and delays in communication. Our findings reveal a clear mismatch between employer and applicant expectations of how long the application process should take during the apply stage. Cumulatively, 71% of candidates would consider abandoning an online application once it has taken over 15 minutes. However, a substantial number of employers have an application process lasting longer than this time frame. Employer websites are providing a disappointing experience for many applicants. 50% of applicants give a neutral to very poor rating of their experience when applying for a job directly on an employer's website or portal. The majority of those who gave these ratings, 72%, blame a lengthy process with too many requirements the main contributing factor. While speed of processes is important, it is clear communication along the journey that keeps applicants engaged. For example, 57% of applicants say it is important to receive confirmation of moving to the interview stage within 1 week of applying, but 36% of employers do not meet this expectation. Following the final interview, 58% of applicants expect to hear within 3 days if they have been successful, but a third of employers do not meet this expectation, taking up to a week or more. 25% of applicants have accepted a job verbally, but because of a long wait to receive the formal written offer, they have accepted another job in the meantime. 61% want to receive a written offer within 1 week of the verbal offer. Applicants are more likely to apply to a role if the process is easy and provides personalised functionality and communication. According to our findings, applicants want more personalised functionality than employers currently offer on their career websites or portals. Desirable features include the ability to set up job alerts, start and stop their application, or create a profile. Unfortunately for applicants, less than a third of employers have these functionalities built into their online portals or career websites. What's more, 41% of employers know their career sites provide a neutral to very poor experience to applicants, but irrespective of this, over half say they are not investing in the career site's functionality as part of their candidate attraction plan for the year ahead. Despite applicants' expectations of simple and streamlined online processes requiring fewer touch points with an employer, our research also shows that applicants still want the option for personal interaction as part of the process. Over 2/3 of applicants say it is important to them to have a contact person who can provide status updates on their individual application during the application stage. 77% say this is important during the decide stage and 89% during the join stage. The absence of such a contact person can have a negative impact on the process overall. For example, of those applicants who say they have had a bad experience with an employer's career website, 29% of them attribute this to not having had a contact person available during the apply process. As mentioned earlier, employer feedback is also highly valued, but not always provided. Over 3/4 of applicants say employers are not good at giving feedback after an application was rejected, while 66% say employers do not provide sufficient feedback following an interview, which applicants want to hear regardless of the outcome. Finally, the human element is still so important. Applicants are judging all aspects of the journey, and an unwelcoming first impression can be detrimental. From the way they are greeted at reception to experiencing the office environment, applicants are assessing all interactions with a potential employer. If initial first impressions are negative or unwelcoming, employers run the risk of losing out on great candidates. Nearly half of applicants say that they have been deterred from pursuing a role further due to a negative first impression with an organisation, while 22% have almost been deterred. 64% put this down to an unwelcoming environment, and 44% due to an unwelcoming member of staff in particular. Almost 2/3 of applicants who will be managing or supervising staff want to meet their direct reports during the interview stage, but only 13% of employers offer this opportunity. Interestingly, 59% of applicants say that they would prefer to meet with a recruitment consultant as part of their recruitment process. In addition, 46% want to meet with potential colleagues as part of the recruitment process. However, the welcoming process shouldn't stop once the job has been accepted. Once they have joined the organisation, new staff say the most important part of their induction is to spend time with the team. Yet only 66% of employers prioritise this as a standard part of their onboarding process. Failure to conduct a thorough and welcoming join process may lead to the loss of the new hire, with a third of those who left an organisation within the first 12 months, saying it was because they weren't a good cultural fit. This is so important when you consider that 63% of candidates say that the people and culture of an organisation is the single most important consideration when making a decision as to whether to apply to a company or not. So to sum up, a good applicant journey is key to your talent acquisition strategy. However, our research has found that candidates are being deterred from applying due to a poor experience along the applicant journey. They encounter a few common roadblocks, including meeting with unprepared interviewers. 47% of applicants have been deterred due to a lack of preparation by the interviewer. Negative employee reviews. 61% of candidates have been discouraged from applying to an organisation from negative employee reviews. Online applications taking longer than 15 minutes. 45% of candidates would be deterred from an online application if it took over 15 minutes to complete. And receptionists or staff that give a negative first impression. Nearly half of candidates have been deterred from a role due to the first impression of an organisation being a poor one. So, our recommendations to you, following on from the report, include, firstly, speeding up your process. Determine how long it takes to complete each stage of your application journey, looking one by one at specific components such as the time it takes to submit an online application or to respond to applicants after interviews. When you register your next role, ask your recruitment consultant to go through the hard copy of the report with you, benchmark your own timescales against the expectations of candidates, and identify where your process may be falling short of expectations. As a second step, review the application requirements for your applicants. For example, are you asking for information that is either unnecessary or could be provided at a later stage, thereby speeding up key points along the journey? Finally, hiring managers and HR teams should work together to create a standard protocol for interviews and applicant communication. Setting expectations around an acceptable number of interviews and agreeing timeframes for feedback or updates to applicants will provide your organisation with overall deliver a better, more consistent experience to candidates. When reviewing your processes, don't forget to review not only the time it takes to complete the process, but also what communication is going to the applicant at every interval. Ensure your process is streamlined and efficient and keeps the applicant engaged at each and every step. Our second recommendation is that you invest in the online experience of your applicants. While you may not be in a position to invest heavily in the capabilities of your career website or portal, there are some basic expectations that must be met. Firstly, and most importantly, ensure your website or portal is mobile optimised. Secondly, provide the ability for applicants to start and stop their application and to update their profiles, edit their CV, and upload additional profiles. Finally, if your online portal or site requires multiple steps, ensure it's clear to the applicant throughout the process where they are in that process and how long it will take. Overall, this should better help retain applicants until the end of the process of submitting their application. It is important to note, however, that these basic functionalities will only deliver an average experience to candidates who are also likely to be using the advanced options the likes of recruitment agencies and job boards offer online. Given the importance of the online experience to candidate attraction and the cost implications in creating an optimal solution, consider working with a partner who can provide these important tools, such as more advanced online portals and applicant tracking systems. We do offer these services, so please get in touch if you'd like further information. Our third recommendation is that you create a structured interview process. Aim to create a more standardised interview process across your organisation, starting by auditing your hiring manager's current interview process. Review elements including interview structures, questioning techniques, and the length and number of interviews hiring managers require. Consider using a third party, such as Hayes Assessment Development, to develop and support consistent assessment processes. Consider also investing in training and support for interviewers, improving your hiring manager's overall interviewing and questioning techniques. Our website does have lots of free tools available to you to help with this. As you look to create an organisation-wide standard, be mindful, however, of the nuances and requirements that pertain to different specialist groups when being interviewed. Consider consulting with an expert to help you understand what techniques are best suited for differing types of roles and seniority levels. Further training of hiring managers may be required. They are responsible for hiring for a multitude of specialist areas. Our fourth recommendation is that you make employee reviews part of your attraction strategy. The people and culture of an organisation is the most important consideration for candidates when assessing whether to apply for a new role or not. To find out if the culture being promoted by the employer is authentic, applicants are looking to employer review sites for an honest answer, so it's essential to understand what the current sentiment is about your employer brand online. We suggest you conduct an employer brand health assessment by analysing employer review sites and conducting social media listening exercises. If this assessment is unfavourable, consider building a strategy that encourages current employees to share positive comments about their experiences, while addressing negative feedback by dispelling misconceptions and demonstrating the changes or improvements you are making. Next, put in place a process to consistently track employee reviews and leverage the insights for your employee value proposition marketing programs. Our final recommendation is that you test your journey. Like any good product, user testing of the applicant journey is key. People, time and processes are the components that have the most influence on whether an applicant could be deterred from completing their application or accepting a role. Do you know what it's like to be a new person walking into your office or workspace? Are your staff welcoming to newcomers? Do you know what people find when they search your organisation as an employer? Do you know how difficult it is, or isn't, to apply to a job on your site? You need to be consistently reviewing your process end to end. This report provides that first impressions really matter, so audit, assess and refine yours to present your organisation consistently in the best possible light to prospective candidates. So now that you've heard what makes the ideal applicant journey, how do you go about benchmarking your candidate experience? Well, we've developed an online assessment tool which could help you. The Hayes Candidate Journey Diagnostic is an online tool to help organisations improve their candidate experience. Our interactive tool allows you to evaluate how strong your candidate experience is against industry-leading best practice across 6 key assessment stages. Based on your self-assessment and specific goals, the tool automatically provides a rating against your answers and creates a personalised report of recommendations on how to take your candidate experience to the next level. Your report will benchmark your candidate experience score and help you identify what makes a winning candidate experience, how to take your candidate experience to the next level, areas of priority, quick wins, and ideas for continuous improvement. So calculate your candidate experience score and discover how to attract the right talent better, faster, and more cost-effectively. You can access the tool on hayes.co.uk/candidate-experience. Thank you. I'm now going to pass you over to Richard, who's going to share some insights from his own experience at Grant Thornton.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. First of all, a huge thank you to Sarah and the team at Hayes for the invitation to come and speak to you all today. And by way of quick introduction, my name is Richard Waite, and I lead the resourcing team at Grant Thornton. And for a little bit of context for you, we recruit across 26 locations in the UK, and this year we will recruit somewhere in the region of 1,600 individuals across those locations, everything from apprentices and school leavers all the way through to new partners and directors. I found the What Workers Want report super interesting and actually reassuring in terms of some of the strategies that we've been driving at Grant Thornton over the last few years, and actually quite thought-provoking in terms of some of the things that we might want to take away and reflect on ourselves around how we can make our process and thinking even better. But what I'm here to talk to you today about is the work that we've done over the last 18 months in the trainee recruitment space. And again, for context, we recruit around 500 trainees across the UK each year, everything from school leavers, graduates, summer interns and 12-month placements across our key locations, across most of the 26 locations. And what I'm going to talk to you today about is what we've done to kind of effectively rebuild our candidate journey following some cultural changes that have been going on at Grant Thornton. We welcomed a new CEO around 3 years ago, and what we've done to really create a recruitment journey and candidate experience that's really fit for our organisation, that really speaks to the candidate market, and that's driven some real successes for us over the last recruitment cycle. So at Grant Thornton, we have set a bold purpose to shape a vibrant economy for the UK. Our CEO, when she talks about this being our North Star. It drives absolutely which clients we choose to work with, what we do with them, what we speak out on, and how we act as a business, and fundamentally for me and my team, who we hire. We know that moving from a fairly traditional accountancy and professional services organisation to being a much more purposeful and forward-thinking organisation and working with clients in a slightly different way means that the type of people that we need to attract and recruit need to think in a slightly different way to necessarily those who we've recruited in the past. So what we did in the recruitment team was we started with a blank page and really challenged ourselves around thinking, if we're to be recruiting future-fit individuals who are purposeful and are able to work with our clients to shape a vibrant economy, what needs to be true for us to be able to welcome those people into the organisation? So what I'm going to talk to you today about is what we've been doing differently, particularly in the trainee recruitment space, how we've challenged the status quo, and we're targeting the student market in a different way for a better and more purposeful way of doing business. What we've done to create a signal above the noise to attract the right candidates in helping to drive our bold vision. I'll take you through the candidate journey for all the way from attraction through the employer branding phases up to initial application and then through to onboarding and orientation. And finally, I'll share some hot-off-the-press results that we have pulled together over the last few weeks as we've closed down the recruitment cycle for trainees for 2018 and talk about the benefits that we've had for candidates, our in-house recruiters, but also on our internal stakeholders. So here is a screenshot of Sasha, who is our CEO, and she stepped into her role in the summer of 2015, having joined the firm as a trainee herself around 20 years ago. And she brought this bold vision for the organisation. We needed to think and act differently than the way we had done to be more relevant for society at the moment and to really future-proof our organisation and to help future-proof the clients that we work with. We believe that the way that we do business can have a direct impact on the lives of our clients, the individuals who work for our clients, and society at large. And through the work that we choose to do with clients across the strands of audit, tax and advisory, we can do a lot to shape a vibrant economy. Some of the things that we've been doing to do that, we've been running regional live labs to really pull together individuals from public sector, private sector and the third sector to really get our heads together around some really challenging, meaty issues that are affecting society and the economy right now, and what we can do as a collective and collaborate to really build solutions and target some of those key challenges to drive a much more vibrant and fair society for everyone. And a few weeks ago, we led a Vibrant Capital Week where we did something similarly in London, where we worked to figure out what does a vision for the future of look like, where everybody can thrive, and where we can help bridge the gap between the haves and the haves not, and how we can help connect profit and purpose together for a much more vibrant and successful London of the future. Now, it's not only Grant Thornton who are thinking about purpose at the moment. Actually, the interesting thing is that student market particularly, but more and more candidates across the whole talent spectrum are talking to us about how they're looking for meaning and purpose in the work that they're doing. I don't think it came as a surprise in 2017 that youthquake was named the word of the year by the Oxford Dictionary, and what this represents is a significant cultural, political or social change arising from the actions or influence of young people. When we're out on campus talking to students and in schools talking to careers advisors and teachers as well, what we're hearing is that young people are ready to challenge the status quo. They're looking for a better and more purposeful way of living their lives, and that involves choosing where they want to work. They want to work with an organisation who are, yes, successful, who, yes, give them a great career, who really focus on things like career development, but also stand for something bigger in wider society, and who are looking to leave a lasting impact beyond our own careers here at the firm. So we felt it was kind of a perfect storm in terms of what we were doing at Grant Thornton, what the market was telling us that they were looking for, and it really helped us kind of kick off the work that we did around 18 months ago to really reimagine what that candidate journey could look like. If we're to be recruiting much more purposeful individuals, what did we need to be doing differently to attract them? So we started working with our marketing, brand and comms colleagues to really think about if this is what we stand for as an organisation, if this is our purpose, and if this is the kind of work that we're doing with our clients, what's the message that we need to be taking to the talent market, and how do we talk about this in a way that connects with students, with those who might be applying to some of our experienced hire opportunities, and actually to partners and directors who would be required to come in and lead this change to be a much more purposeful organisation. So we combined all that thinking together, and we bubbled up and boiled those messages into some kind of key talking points. And the overarching message that we landed on was shape more than just your career. We landed on this because we think it gives kind of a real confidence in terms of our offering here at Grant Thornton. It's kind of a given that you'll come here and you'll get great career development, great mentors, great coaches. You'll work with bright people on really interesting client assignments, and you'll have access to all the benefits that come with working for a global organisation. But we believe that working at Grant Thornton is more than that, and we think that this notion of shaping more than just your career really gets that across. You can come to Grant Thornton, you can be involved in something that's much more purposeful, shaping a vibrant economy and leaving a lasting legacy for the economy of the future. We then took that messaging and thought about how do we translate for the materials that we take out onto campus and into schools, and how can we help position our people front and centre to really help share their own authentic stories about what life at Grant Thornton is like and how they shape more than just their own career through the work that they do with the clients that they work with. So here we've got some case studies from Amit, Hart, Charlotte and Dami, who really get across their stories of what they've been doing during life at Grant Thornton. What we also encourage our trainees to do, whether that's in the careers brochure that you can see here or on our trainee blog, Spilling the Beans, we really encourage them to kind of give the true and authentic full story of what life at Grant Thornton's like. We're not trying to missell, we're not trying to kind of dress it up as something it's not. We kind of almost want the good, the bad and the ugly of life at Grant Thornton, so that candidates can make a really informed judgment of whether this is right for them. We purposefully wanted our message to market to be quite Marmite, actually. We know that shaping more than just your career, this different way of looking at their career, won't resonate with absolutely everybody, and we're really okay with that. We want this to be a bold, differentiating message that candidates can either connect with meaningfully or not. And what we're finding is through the messages that we've been driving out on campus over the last 12 months, we've really managed to tap into a different kind of student who approach things in a different way and have a slightly different mindset to the type of organisation that they want to work for and the type of work that they want to be doing. So if we look at the candidate journey now, and this is how we organise it at Grant Thornton, but I think you could quite easily kind of reorganise this into the Hayes model of search, apply, decide and join. And what we did is we kind of started with a blank page right from the start. And it was one of those really great meetings where a small team of us came together in a meeting room in our office. kind of mapped it up on the wall, lots of post-it notes, lots of energy, really kind of identifying what was great, what were the wow moments, what were the ouch moments, what didn't really connect with what we were trying to do as an organisation now. And we almost had to kind of break it before we could rebuild it. So we took everything from the pre-application stage, the employer brand journey, what messages candidates see online, through Glassdoor, through LinkedIn, on our Spilling the Beans blog, and in person when we meet candidates on campus or in schools. We also challenged ourselves around whether our application form was fit for purpose and also respectful of a student's time. And again, going back to the key finding from the research is that candidates, and I think probably students even more so, have got fairly low attention spans, 15 minutes apparently being the max. So again, we really challenged ourselves around, are we asking the things that really do matter on our application form? Are we pulling out the things that matter the most and correlate the most with future success at Grant Thornton? And if not, why are we even bothering to ask those things? So we stripped our application form back to somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 minutes, so maybe we've still got some work to do. But again, really focusing on what's most important. We worked with our online test provider to, again, rethink our online testing capabilities. We'd had fairly successful testing in place historically, but they were fairly standard and not necessarily particularly differentiating and certainly not purposeful. So we worked with our provider to rebuild our numerical, verbal and critical reasoning tests and rebuild that into one immersive situational and aptitude test that candidates could go through. It was almost a kind of a week in the life of a trainee at Grant Thornton. So as well as it being an opportunity for us to assess whether a candidate was right to come and work at Grant Thornton, it was also an opportunity for candidates to get more engaged with our message, more engaged with our purpose, and again to get that transparent and authentic view of life as a trainee at Grant Thornton. We worked with HireView, who are our digital assessment platform, to rebuild our online interview and to build in a mini case study. And I guess the biggest work that we did was around our final round experience day. And again, in terms of semantics, we used to call this an assessment day, and we rebranded this as an experience day, as well as rebuilding it from the start. Because again, while our old assessment day assessed whether a candidate was right for us, what we wanted to do was really build something that was an immersive experience, where yes, we got really robust metrics on whether a candidate met the benchmarks that we required against our competencies. But it was also so immersive that a candidate could engage with us more as an organisation, really connect with our mission and purpose of shaping a vibrant economy, and actually leave that experience day fizzing with excitement about what they can contribute to life at Grant Thornton. And then thinking about the pre-joiner and joiner experience, how could we make that truly purposeful? How could we see that kind of 6, 9, 12-month period sometimes for trainees as an opportunity to kind of drip feed messages, thread our purpose and key content through that journey, so that when they land on day one, they're really excited about what it is they're joining and the impact that they can make. This whole candidate journey is underpinned by two candidate communities. We have a candidate community called Grant Thornton I've Applied, which is built on our internal social collaboration platform. And that's an opportunity and a community where candidates can connect with one another, can connect with current trainees at Grant Thornton and connect with recruiters. We encourage really open and frank dialogue in there, so we encourage people to blog about their experiences of the digital interview, the experience day, to kind of help pass on that knowledge to other candidates who may be moving through the process. And again, to ask those kind of difficult questions that they might not necessarily want to ask when they're talking to our recruiters on the phone. And the final community that we have is our Grant Thornton I'm Joining community, which is for those candidates who've been successful in securing an offer, so that we can kind of make sure that they've got everything they need in the months and weeks running up to their start date. So we did quite a lot last summer, and we were kind of a little bit nervous as to how it was necessarily going to go, so we made fairly wholesale changes to our strategy and our process. And it was kind of an almost kind of suck it and see mentality at first as to how this was necessarily going to go. So the things that we've noticed now that we've closed season down and we're 100% full for our trainee roles. Quality is higher at the application stage. Last year, 34% of our candidates who applied to Grant Thornton were successful in getting through to the next stage. This year it's 48%. We believe that's because we're asking the things that matter the most. Our message in the external market is much more appealing, it's much more sticky for candidates, and they're connecting with it much more powerfully. We're seeing through the various stages of the process that candidates are actively choosing to prioritise their Grant Thornton application. We're really actually quite comfortable that when a candidate applies to us, we might not necessarily be the first on their list of where they want to work, but we give them such an awesome, purposeful candidate experience that by the time we get to the offer point in the candidate journey, that we are number one on where they want to work. And what this has meant is by seeing greater success at the various stages, is we've seen more candidates moving through, more offers being made on fewer applications. We've actually seen a 30% drop in applications to our trainee roles. That's because we've been able to close things down earlier. We've been able to see much greater quality come through the candidate pipelines earlier in the season. And again, that drives real efficiencies. The final round experience day now is so immersive and so high impact. Our internal stakeholders say that they love the interactions they're having with candidates, they love the level of conversation that they're having, and they're seeing a different kind of quality coming through. We've seen a shift from a success rate of 55% last season, which we were fairly pleased with and happy with, to a success rate of 73% this season. Now, what that is meaning is for our hiring managers, assessors and interviewers, is we're requiring just under 1,000 less chargeable hours of their time to be spent on recruitment for trainees each year, which they're then able to redistribute and refocus on business development, people management and client care. And overall, we've had a bit of a bumpy year as well in terms of business demand. So we've moved from a recruiting target of around 370 to a recruitment target of just under 500. And what we've been is that we've been, through the improvements that we've made and refocusing the candidate journey, is that we've been able to recruit a much larger number of people on the same team size, the same budget, effectively saving £249,000 this year. If I go back to the key themes that came out of the What Workers Want report, I think actually it connects quite nicely to some of the work that we've done at Grant Thornton. So I think being transparent, being authentic and giving a real true life picture of what life is like for candidates, for applicants. And we've seen this through the clear, bold and focused employee brand and attraction activity that we've driven. Really driving an efficient process that's not only efficient for us as recruiters, for our internal stakeholders, but also efficient and respectful of a candidate's time as well. Spreading that notion of personalised communication through the whole candidate journey. I think when we're dealing with volume recruitment, the tried and tested way, it can often feel impersonal and a bit like someone's been forced through a funnel. By challenging ourselves around actually how we make volume recruitment work in a slightly different way, we've been able to deliver a much more personalised, high-touch service to the candidates who are moving through. And the final point is around feeling welcomed and connected, and I think as well aligned to purpose and meaning. So again, if I think about our whole candidate journey, really positioning our people as our key point of differentiation at every stage of the process, we've been able to make candidates feel welcomed, whether they're at the really early stages of the process or whether in their final few weeks before joining. And at that point, I'll hand back to Sarah.
Thank you, Richard. That is really insightful and really does highlight a lot of the findings from the report, actually, so hopefully it's resonated with quite a few people listening. We'd now like to invite, we've got some questions which I think have come through, so we'll pick a couple of those and talk through some of our own ideas on these for the last few moments. We have had a few people requesting slides. We will have slides available for any participant who would like to receive them. We can send those as a follow-up. So one of the questions we've had, actually, quite a few people have been asking us about this one, is employee reviews and how we can try and ensure that they paint a fair picture of organisations during the applicant journey. And I think this is one I hear daily in my role. Most organisations I speak to are kind of trying to ignore Glassdoor and the other review sites, but I do think it's better to embrace it. These sites are not going away, particularly based on some of the evidence I think Richard's found at Grant Thornton. Candidates want to go and find out about the purpose, the culture, the authenticity of an organisation, and they are choosing review sites to do it, particularly the younger generation. So our advice to people sort of asking about how important that is and how to take ownership of it is basically embrace it. make sure that, first of all, you are doing a bit of an audit. Do go online and have a look at what employee reviews are like. I think ensure that someone from HR or even marketing are monitoring the sites and taking a responsibility for overseeing the reviews and then responding to any reviews, particularly negative ones or untrue ones. And for me, and certainly we try and do this at Hayes as well, it's making sure that you're balancing any negative reviews, which are usually in the minority, by encouraging your happy employees to post favourable reviews and share their own positive experiences of working in an organisation. And I think Richard's idea of the Spilling the Beans blog is absolutely brilliant and reflects what our research is saying about that authenticity. I mean, I don't know if you've got anything else to add around reviews and so on, and that online view of your organisation.
I definitely echo what you've said, Sarah. I think online reviews, whether we like them or not, are here to stay. If I think about myself as an individual, there's no way I'd book a holiday without checking out a hotel on TripAdvisor before I went. And I think candidates are in the same mentality. And if I was an active candidate, I would definitely be checking here myself. If I think about some of the interviews that I'm in, I think probably 1 in 3, maybe even sometimes 1 in 2 of the candidates that I'm talking to reference the reviews that they've read on Glassdoor and what they've heard about Grant Thornton through various review sites. And what I would definitely encourage all of us to think about is, first of all, get an understanding of what's been spoken about your organisation online on sites such as Glassdoor, to get an understanding of what that feels like. And I think, secondly, and what we're still working through in terms of how we do this, is kind of what our response strategy is. So actually, if you get a really positive review on Glassdoor, who responds to that, how do you respond to it, when do you respond to it, and probably more importantly, maybe some of the more challenging reviews that you may get online, what's your strategy around responding to those, to really show that this is kind of something that we're listening to and paying attention to and actually taking this feedback seriously.
And one of the other questions we had is someone said, I'm really surprised to hear that so many candidates have had negative experiences during interviews. Any advice we can give on ensuring my hiring managers are conducting effective interviews? Unfortunately, this is something that we do hear quite frequently as well, and I think it is, just like we were saying, you know, at the end of the presentation, do a review. When was the last time, if you are HR or you are part of a talent team, when was the last time you sat in on an interview being conducted by a line manager? I do feel that those skills need updating pretty regularly. And it is absolutely important that candidates feel like they are the organisation is being sold to, that, you know, the person interviewing them would like them in their team, would like to work there. Gone are the days where an interview is a grilling, where it's one way and you're assessing that candidate. I do think people need to be mindful of that. And I do think that the hiring managers do tend to be the people in an organisation where we get perhaps less favourable feedback in terms of the candidate's experience of the interview. So a lot of the time it's just simply lack of experience and perhaps lack of training. So I don't know if you've got any further comments on that, Richard. I
agree. I think the hiring managers and the interviewers are a fundamental part of that candidate experience, and it can almost make or break the candidate journey from a candidate's perspective. As you said, training and kind of those regular check-ins are fundamental to making sure that they're on message, but also minimising risk to an organisation. If we think about things like unconscious bias, how can we make sure that we're upskilling our interviewers to be making the right decisions about the candidates that they're meeting? And something that we're starting to do at Grant Thornton now, which is keeping us busy, is kind of doing an audit of our interviewer pools from a diversity and inclusion perspective. So again, making sure that we've got a really great mix of our internal talent meeting the external talent, so we're not projecting a view of ourselves as an organisation that doesn't reflect the inclusive environment that we are.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Another question we've had is, we've talked a lot, obviously Richard was talking about their recruitment of graduates and so on, but I think people are keen to hear about how the journey maybe differ, or the expectations differ from more senior candidates. And certainly the report itself does go into more detail on that, actually, because there is a difference, as you can imagine. And I think one of the interesting things I read in the report was that a lot of senior people want to know that one of their biggest factors which will make them apply or not to an organisation is who are they going to be working with. So having visible profiles of the other senior members of that organisation, whether it's who they're going to be reporting into, or the chief exec, or just part of the senior management team, is really important. People do want to look at who those individuals are, what their profiles are, what they stand for, and what their track record is. And what they might be able to learn from those people. So more detail in the report, but as a sort of starter, then hopefully you find that quite interesting, useful. I think we've got time for another question. So we've also had one. I'm interested to know if you think that other companies are following, for example, the Big Four. Because obviously some of the changes you've made, Richard, are quite bold, and not every organisation would go as far as you have. So have you got any indication of what other organisations in your sector are doing?
It's a great question, thank you. I think where we're positioned in the market, we're almost forced to be quite bold and disruptive and courageous in the decisions that we make. We have to compete for talent in a slightly different way to some of our bigger competitors who might have bigger budgets, bigger teams, much kind of bigger recruitment marketing activity, and effectively bigger brands. I think as an industry, I don't think it would be a bad thing if recruitment could go much more down the line of kind of this notion of candidate experience rather than process management. I think where we see organisations doing this really well, they're shifting from this old school version of kind of selling and sifting to this notion of kind of candidate experience, coaching, really threading brand through the whole candidate life cycle. So I think it wouldn't surprise me if other organisations are doing similar things or will be doing similar things very shortly. And actually it did take a little bit of investment, but I think what it took was a lot of creative thinking of really great people who work in my team to kind of really break the old process and rebuild it from scratch. And actually the monetary investment wasn't necessarily that big.
Okay. Final question. We've got another one here, which how does this work in relation to creating a candidate community for future employees? Often candidates are told their details are going to be retained, but there's little effort to keep in contact with them. I think this is where a candidate applicant tracking system is really important for an organisation. I think any internal recruitment team needs to have that, and again, it all goes back to the journey itself. If a candidate's had a really favourable experience throughout the whole process, been given really good interview feedback, negative or positive, has been, it is a real bugbear according to the survey. I think it's 66% of organisations hadn't given feedback to candidates who we surveyed, which is, I just feel when a candidate's investing so much time in an actual interview, that's really dreadful. So I think part of it is make sure the candidate's engaged and wants to be kept in touch with them and wants to actually be considered for future roles. And then I think having an applicant tracking system, then you can hopefully keep in touch, send out interesting jobs. You've got the functionality for job alerts. Candidates can be active and apply for those roles coming up, which might suit their ability better. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that from what Grant Thornton are doing about those candidates who've been rejected but you might want to keep for the future.
Our candidate community for trainees is a 12-month cyclical community, so candidates who are unsuccessful in our process are invited to stay part of our community for the rest of that recruitment cycle, so that the content in there can help them in other recruitment processes that they might be moving through. We do cleanse that community once a cycle so that we start afresh every time we go live with our new recruitment season. And the part of the puzzle that we haven't got the answer to ourselves yet is actually how do we build those kind of really engaged pools of talent who may not be right now, but who may be right in the future. And I think we've definitely got work to do at Grant Thornton as well around how we can really leverage technology to do something interesting in that space.
Great, thank you so much. Thank you, Richard. Really appreciate you teaming up with me on this. I think your experiences at Grant Thornton have been really interesting, certainly resonated with me, and certainly I think reflect a lot of what our report's saying. The report, hard copies of the report are available. You can request a copy online. You can speak to your recruitment consultant who will happily come and bring them down to you. We do deep dive into sectors within the report, so hopefully you'll find it really interesting. Thank you so much for your time, everybody.